This is an incredible crowd, and this is an incredibly important debate. So I'm happy that you're here. I'm going to go through real quickly what our setup is going to be. We will start with an opening statement from each, starting with the affirmative and then to the negative for 15 minutes. That will end and be followed by a rebuttal, 8 minutes each, and then cross-examination, where our speakers will stay at their tables and be able to talk to each other. It will start first with John Mark, who will be able to speak to Dan, and then Dan to John Mark. Once cross-examination starts, you should have cards in front of you that allow for you to write down questions. You should start passing those to these two aisles during cross-examination. Runners will go up and down and collect those and bring them to our staff in front. It will be selected by the opposite group. So questions for the atheists will be selected by the theists, and questions for the theists will be selected by the atheists, to ensure that both we can have questions promptly and clearly asked, as well as hard-hitting. We will end promptly at 7 o'clock. So please keep all showings of agreement or disagreement or applause to a minimum to allow our speakers to get their points across and use their time effectively. In return, our speakers will stick to their time limits. And they will also signify when their segments have ended, if they are back-to-back, which will happen in 2 cases. Real quickly, I would like to thank the 2 sponsors, the Society of Open-Minded Atheists and Agnostics, and the St. Thomas More Society. These 2 groups have shown commendable poise and professionalism when working together, despite protests, disagreements over various events, and obviously theological differences. Only half in jest I tell my friend today, if these 2 societies can work together, maybe all of ours can. I'd like to invite them up now, Frank and Joey. They are the presidents of those respective organizations. They're going to tell you a little bit about themselves, as well as introduce our speakers. Joey will start by telling you about Soma and Dan, followed by Frank, who will tell you about St. Thomas and John Mark, at which time John Mark will begin his opening statement. Please give them your attention.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Joey Ralph. I'm the president of the Society of Open-Minded Atheists and Agnostics here at the University of Kansas. For those of you who don't know what SOMA is, we are a student organization that is comprised not only of students here at KU, but also members from the surrounding Lawrence community, and also from Kansas City and Topeka areas. Our goal as a group is to promote secularism, challenge religious dogma, support community institutions through charity, and hold social events and discussions. Our primary goals are to provide a community for atheists, agnostics, and freethinkers to be themselves, as well as to improve the perception of atheists within our community and beyond. If you have any further questions about it, feel free to talk to me. But for now, we move on to the introduction of our representative in tonight's debate. All right. Our representative will be debating the negative side, and he will be arguing against the existence of God. A former Christian preacher and musician for 19 years, he famously announced his atheism, and has been a figurehead for the movement in America ever since. Currently co-president of the Freedom from Religion Foundation, co-host of Free Thought Radio, and author of 3 books related to the subject of atheism, including Losing Faith in Faith and Godless. A man so famous he has his own Wikipedia page, the charming, charismatic, and ferociously attractive Dan Mark. To St. Thomas More's Frank Baskell for further introduction.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Frank Baskell, and I am a law student at KU this year, and currently the sorting president of the St. Thomas More Society. Very quickly, I'd like to thank Joey Ralph and Conrad Hudson and all of SOMA for being so wonderful to work with. They did a great job in helping us get together this event and did a lot of work. A little bit about the St. Thomas More Society. We are a group of Catholic law students who are focused on integrating their Catholic faith in their studies and ultimately their law practice as we strive to emulate our patron saint, St. Thomas More. We strive to achieve these objectives through daily prayer, community service, public discussion, and frequent receipt of the sacraments. Please visit our blog to see all the activities this year the Society has partaken in. Now I'd like to introduce you to Dr. John Mark Miravalle, who is representing the St. Thomas More Society this evening in arguing for the existence of God. Dr. John Mark Miravalle is first and foremost a husband and a father of three. He has studied theology at the Franciscan University of Steubenville in Ohio, the Pontifical University of St. Thomas Aquinas in Rome, the Pontifical Faculty of the Immaculate Conception in Washington, D.C., and the Pontifical Faculty Regina Apostolorum in Rome, where he obtained his doctorate. He is the author of the book entitled The Drug, the Soul, and God, a Catholic Moral Perspective on Antidepressants. He is a professor at the School of Faith and has worked at the St. Lawrence Catholic Campus Center here in Lawrence, Kansas for 6 years. Please join me in welcoming Dr. John Mark Miravalle.
It's my job to defend God's existence, which is a weird position to be in, since what I'm really looking forward to is hearing God defend my existence, especially since I don't think I've given him quite as good a case as he's given me. But I have three proofs tonight that God exists, one from metaphysics, one from ethics, and one from logic. And the proof from metaphysics has about 3 steps. The first step notices that things have essential features and things have non-essential features. And an essential feature is a feature that a thing has just based on what it is, in virtue of its own internal structure. Whereas a non-essential feature is a feature that a thing just happens to have. So I took great care in drawing this triangle for our event tonight. And you will see, I hope you like it, this triangle has 3 sides. Now that's an essential feature of a triangle. A triangle has to have 3 sides just based on what it is. It's part of what it means to be a triangle. But you'll notice too that this triangle is blue. That's a non-essential feature. A triangle doesn't have to be blue. It could just as easily be black or red or green. And you really see this difference between essential and non-essential features come out when people ask questions about them. So for instance, I have a son. He's 3. He'll be 4 tomorrow. And he could come up to me and say, "Daddy, why does that triangle have 3 sides?" And that's a question about an essential feature, and it shows he doesn't quite know what he's talking about. And the only way I can answer his question is if I say, well, son, a triangle has to have 3 sides. That's part of what it means to be a triangle. I have to return again and refer to the thing itself. Whereas if he asks me about a non-essential feature and says, "Daddy, why is the triangle blue?" I say, "Good question. That's a question about a non-essential feature. The triangle doesn't have to be blue. It just happens to be blue. Why is it blue?" And the only way I can answer his question is by referring to something other than the triangle. I say, "Well, son, the triangle is blue because I had a blue marker." You see, so the difference is fairly clear. But now go to step 2, and you will see that the existence of the things in the world is a non-essential feature. For instance, my son, if he came to me and said, "Daddy, why does this triangle exist? Where did it come from? Why does it have existence?" I would answer his question about the triangle's existence, so I'd answer his question about a non-essential feature. I'd say, "Good question, the triangle doesn't have to exist. Why does it exist?" And I'd answer his question by referring to something other than the triangle. I'd say, "Well, the triangle exists because I made it, I drew it, I gave it existence." But then, of course, he could redirect the same question to me. "But Daddy, why do you have existence?" And that's a good question too, because for me, existence is a non-essential feature. I don't have to exist. It's a shame. But I don't have to exist. I didn't exist for a very long time. I won't exist in a few decades, sooner than that if I don't floss, I'm told. And that's true of everything else in the universe. It's a reasonable question to say, why does it exist? And the only way you can answer questions about these things that exist non-essentially, that pass in and out of existence, is by referring to something other than the thing itself. So here's step 3. Step 3 shows that if you want to find an explanation for a non-essential feature, you can only find it in a source of that feature, a source which possesses that feature essentially. So I brought a magnet today. I have all kinds of props, and you'll see the magnet has some, well, I don't know if you can see, but the magnet has some nails and some paper clips hanging down from it. And they're all magnetized because they're connected to the magnet. Now someone could say, why is that nail right there magnetic? And that's a great question. Because magnetism is a non-essential feature for a nail. Nails don't have to be magnetic. This nail wasn't magnetic before I connected it to chain from the magnet. And someone could say, okay, well, it's a non-essential feature. Let's answer the question by referring to something other than the thing. Well, this nail has gained its magnetism from this nail above it. Okay, but that just prolongs the question, doesn't it? Because that second nail, that nail right above it, also possesses magnetism as a non-essential feature. You see, so you come to realize that whether you can see it or not, somewhere nearby there has to be a magnet that is supplying, that is acting as a source of the magnetism. There has to be a source of magnetism that itself possesses magnetism essentially in virtue of what it is. That's what we mean by a magnet. And if someone were to ask, why is the magnet magnetic? It'd be like asking, why does that triangle have 3 sides? The only way you could answer it is by saying, well, that's what the thing is. You have to return again to the thing. This thing is magnetic. This magnet is magnetic based on its own internal structure, based on what it is. But then, if that's how we explain non-essential features, then we have to conclude that the existence, the non-essential existence of all the things in the universe can only be explained by a source of existence which itself possesses existence as an essential feature based on what it is. Where to ask, why does this source exist is like asking, why is the magnet magnetic? Why does the triangle have 3 sides? The only way you can answer that question is to say, well, that's what it means to be the source of existence. It means to have existence essentially. This thing exists based on what it is, based on its own internal structure. And this essentially, necessarily existing source, this thing that has to exist the way a magnet has to be magnetic, the way a triangle has to have 3 sides. This necessarily existing, essentially existing source of existence we call God. And by the way, don't think you can get out of it by appealing to some sort of infinite quantity of things, because that won't help. If I were to say, why is that magnet magnetic? And someone said, well, there's an infinity of magnetized nails. That wouldn't answer the question. The question wasn't how many magnetized nails are there. The question was, where are these magnetized nails getting their magnetism? If I draw a dot on a piece of paper, someone says, where'd that come from? I say, well, I drew it. But supposing it were possible for me to draw an infinity of dots on a piece of paper, and someone said, where'd all those dots come from? And I said, well, there's an infinity of them. That's not the question. The question wasn't how many dots are there. The question is, where do these dots come from? So too, when the question, why do things exist, there can never be a legitimate answer in saying, well, there's an infinity of existing things in the universe. That's not the question. Not how many there are. Where are they getting their existence? And the answer can only be this necessarily existing source of existence that we call God. That's the first proof. The second proof is a proof from ethics.